Good morning, colleagues. Thank you for tuning out every single Monday and having patience. Our very first speaker today is Honorable Kenson Kazimi, Minister for Youth Development and Sports, and also MP for Grosley.
Thank you very much. Morning, everybody. Of course, another successful weekend for St. Lucia in sport. St. Lucia, back-to-back champions at the Caribbean Boxing Championship, held on the weekend at the VG Sports Complex. By the same token, St. Lucia just edged out by Grenada in under-19 cricket, and not so good results in the netball, the Caribbean Netball Championship. But sports continues to be a shining light for St. Lucia, especially over the last 2.5 years, and we're certainly hoping to continue to provide as much support as possible to our athletes and to motivate them to do their very best. In terms of youth, we've continued to have conversation about our youth policy, which will be on Cabinet's desk next week. And of course, we would also be bringing together to Cabinet a sports policy that has not been in existence in St. Lucia. So I'm very excited about those two developments. And later on this month, we will be seeing youth parliament and youth activities continue throughout the length and breadth of this country. Questions?
On the youth policy, I heard some rumblings by youth activists saying that they were not consulted for the creation of this policy. Could you explain really the process by which the policy was developed?
The policy was developed by youth practitioners. We had the late Mr. Charles do all the consultations with the youth practitioners throughout St. Lucia, including the NYC and the constituency groups, the district youth and sports councils. What happened was that when we came into government, we had some challenges with the printing of the policies, and we identified some errors, some typographic errors, some errors in the language that we had to hold back on. We did engage young people again to inform them of those discrepancies, lapses and infelicities within the documents. And so by the time we had done all our due diligence, the time frame for which the document was supposed to be identified elapsed. And so we went back to the drawing board again. Unfortunately, Mr. Charles passed away, and we engaged his wife to continue to really develop the document in a proper way. The ministry definitely consulted and will consult again the Youth and Sports Councils, the NYC, with the actual information within the document that they will see is no big difference from what was originally in there. And we are going to then present it to Cabinet and move forward.
Yes, we recently had the regional OECS regional sports youth sports council, and Dr. Jules spoke about the input of youth in this development, because you see some of these formulas have been outdated. Would this be like a precursor in terms of moving forward? Would the wider OECS General Council be involved in this implementation of the youth policy?
Absolutely. If you look at the OECS territories, the challenges faced by young people are not dissimilar. It's not that dissimilar. It's incumbent upon the nation to actually identify what the dissimilarities are, what sets them apart from the other territories, and pretty much set a policy that is pretty much guarded towards that nation's development. I don't think it makes much sense to reinvent the wheel necessarily, to start from scratch. For instance, sports policy. Grenada has a very good sports policy. Grenada, in terms of its population, in terms of its economy, in terms of its people, athletes, are not that dissimilar from St. Lucia. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a look at their sports policy, obviously engage the stakeholders from St. Lucia in terms of the Olympic Committee, the sports associations, the administrators, the PE teachers, and then tweak what is in there to set it apart and make it into St. Lucia's sports policy. And this is what the OACS Youth and Sports Ministers have agreed on, working collaboratively to ensure that we are more efficient and effective with what we are doing instead of operating in silos. And so this is where we are going, and this is the expectation for us as we move forward.
And, moving forward, a lot of emphasis on youth development, sports development. Now we know of physical education is part of PE, is part of the school.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of sports development, would you see somewhere down the line that this being a criteria in the school curriculum? Because now there's prospects for professionals, for administrators, for technical.
Absolutely. It's a symbiotic sort of relationship with the PE Teachers Association. It's supposed to be established that way with the Ministry of Youth and Sport. If you look at the glory days of sports development in St. Lucia, anybody would tell you it was when the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports fell under or was in tandem with the Ministry of Education under Mary Michelle. Since we've had that sort of separation, it's been challenging in terms of getting these two ministries to function together. But we saw that with Island Champs moving on the weekend. We were able to come together and execute that in the interest of sports development, youth and sports development in St. Lucia. And we also expect that as we move forward with all other developments, because sports development is a pyramid. You have the inclusion of all individuals at the bottom of the pyramid until you get to the top, which are the elite athletes. And so the schools would give you the bottom of the pyramid where you can start identifying the talent and putting them in the different programs to ensure they reach at the top of the hierarchy. And so this is what we are doing. If you look at, for instance, in cricket development, we have a grassroots cricket program that is in tandem with most schools. And then you have, from there, you have an under-15 national team. And these individuals then, they graduate to an under-19 team and then a senior team. And at the top of that pyramid, we have a high-performance center where we've brought together about 30 of the best cricketers in St. Lucia in a program of health, nutrition, physical fitness, and, of course, the mental capabilities of these individuals. So it's a very strategic way we are developing sport in St. Lucia, and we're certainly hoping to reap those benefits within the next 10 to 20 years.
Okay, on the topic of youth development, right now the National Youth Council, in collaboration with the Caribbean Youth Council, is hosting their sustainable advocacy and policy training in Bay Gardens. Your general comments on this, and is there any plans for them to be incorporated in the upcoming policy development as well?
I didn't hear the last part. You went all the way down.
Sorry, any plans for them to be included in the upcoming policy development, as you would have mentioned earlier?
Well, it's funny that there is a thought that they are not involved anyway. I just think it's funny that is being pushed out there. The National Youth Council, similar to the government of St. Lucia, it carries on. So I don't think necessarily because you have a new executive that you necessarily have to go back to square one. I just don't think that is productive. It's incumbent upon the government that is coming in or the leadership of the NYC that is coming in to familiarize yourself with what the youth policy is, what the conversations have been as it pertains to youth policy development, and they are always free to engage the ministry, the director of youth, and everybody that form part of the ministry on what their thoughts are and make their contribution. So we are not a ministry that has sidelined anybody. And I think at the end of the day, we need to understand that the government is not just the minister. The government is all of us. And so working with the government will allow for us to have more productivity instead of every single executive that comes in believes that we need to go back to square one.
And on sports, over the weekend, St. Lucia secured its second title, again, champion of the Champions Boxing Tournament. Just your comment on that itself.
Thanks for correcting me. Yes, it's Champions of Champions Caribbean Boxing Tournament. I think the shining light has to be on what's happening in Vieux Fort, the Vieux Fort gym. I know the Castro's gym gets a little jealous when I say that, but we know what has been happening in terms of the social development of young people in the community of Vieux Fort. And we are seeing that this boxing sort of fraternity in Vieux Fort really coming together and doing so much work that is very impressive. John Didier, again, from the community of Labrie, attended Vieux Fort Comprehensive, gold medalist. And we had a 9-year-old from the community of Vieux Fort also win a gold medal. And so it means that the research is being done in identifying those young persons that have the ability to box. And boxing is a sport that you need a lot of discipline, you need a lot of self-control, you need to be able to time what happens in the ring. And so these are the life lessons that are being taught in Vieux Fort right now. And the fact that we have gold medals on the Caribbean region, on a Caribbean level, coming from Vieux Fort, tells us that we have cause to celebrate in this nation.
And the Jimmy's over the weekend as well, Rajan wanted would have mentioned, Grocery Vendors Association did take home the gimmies for, I'm guessing, the category. So we'll cast your comments on that as well.
I'm very proud of the Grocery Vendors Association. As I've always said, the Grocery Vendors Association is an association that functions in the interest of not just their members, but they have an important role of being the face of grocery to tourists who come on a Friday night, and they take that very, very seriously. And of course, as MP, even before I was MP, you would have noted that we had, during COVID, fundraising events to ensure that they were happy, that they were back on their feet, because we understood that the vendors really open the door to who grocery people are. And so if they represent you properly, you can get more and more economic activities being held in your community. There's not a single tourist who comes to St. Lucia who does not feel the need to go to Grocery Friday night, especially when they're there on the weekend. And so we continue to encourage these vendors to keep a smile on their face. As the MP, I always try my best to provide whatever support that I can to them. And we certainly congratulate them on this achievement. And we know there will be many, many more to come. Yes?
Question to the back, sorry.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Apologies. Good morning.
Hi.
At the last briefing, you described the rehabilitation for the George Odom Stadium as ambitious, but you did not quite outline how your ministry falls into that plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you said it was technical oversight or some alignment. Can you just give us some more detail as to how your ministry is working alongside on that project?
Okay, so the technical aspect of developing any grounds, any sporting facility would fall under the ambit of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. So in terms of the design, in terms of the 400-meter track itself, there are specifications that are put by the Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, that must be followed. Positioning of the long jump pit, triple jump pit, the safety protocols that must be put in place to ensure that fans are safe, athletes are safe. All those things would fall under the Ministry of Youth Development and Sport. And so it would be incumbent upon the ministry to pretty much look at the designs and provide the technical advice for how those designs are supposed to be implemented to ensure that we get to a point of having international approval. So that is my main responsibility, similar with the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Whereas we may not be the financiers of everything that happened, we certainly have a technical aspect to developing the facility that is very critical.
We saw in the estimates,
Mm-hmm.
so $2.5 million allocated towards that,
Mm-hmm.
but the consultancy allocation of $2 million out of that amount. Can you explain to us further how the consultancy fees would be more than the allocation for the works?
That is a question for the Minister of Finance to address, and so that does not fall within my purview at this current moment.
So you, as minister, you have no knowledge, no oversight, no involvement?
That is for the Minister of Finance and his team at the Ministry of Finance to allocate and to provide that sort of leadership on this project.
But does your ministry have any say in the consultancy in terms of having any involvement in the candidates that are
The Ministry of Youth
secured?
Development and Sports will continue to be the technical aspect of anything to do with a facility development. We have a director who is responsible to ensure that what the international standards are being implemented at any venue in St. Lucia. And so for me as minister, my sole role, one of my main roles, is to ensure that whatever development is being implemented at the George Odom Stadium it will ensure that we as a nation can meet the standards that are put together by the International Olympic Committee. That's my responsibility.
So in terms of the costing of works at the Darren Sammy Stadium, the Grosley playing field, which I know is very close to you, and the Minderford Park, do we have an overall estimate of what those works cost?
We do have an estimate of what the works cost. We do have, let me just explain this because I've heard this before. We had a unique situation in the region where the US was being engaged by the International Cricket Council to host cricket. And I think most of us here know that the US is not necessarily a global cricket nation. There were many discussions about who in the region were going to be the countries selected to host Cricket World Cup. Jamaica was in the mix, Antigua was in the mix, Dominica was in the mix. Despite the fact that St. Lucia put in their bid early, we were not informed about whether or not St. Lucia was going to host Cricket World Cup until very late in the game. When the decision came and St. Lucia was selected to host Cricket World Cup, we as a government felt that it was absolutely necessary to do all within our powers to ensure that we indeed host the World Cup and we indeed develop our facilities to ensure proper hosting of World Cup. And so, despite the fact that everything came in late, we had to ensure that we could design and construct and make adjustments to the facilities to meet again the standards of the IOC and so the ICC. And so it was very difficult for us to have gone to square one. We'd have to design and make adjustments. So this is why you would not hear me say that it took $25 million for us to do all those renovations. It's because because of the time sensitivity of everything that we're doing, we have to ensure that the work continues. And so if you take a look at the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds, you'll be more than satisfied that we have done a very good job and that we continue to ensure that we are fiscally prudent as we continue to strive towards being the best venue for this competition this year.
So do we know the contractors on the projects?
Okay, so the contractors...
And the selection process, can you explain that to us?
Okay, so the selection process is very similar to what would happen when you have any venue that you need done expeditedly. We engage as many contractors as possible to provide costing for works based on the designs. It goes to the NLA, National Lotteries Authority, and then they would sit and opine on this with the aid of the actual overseer of the entire project. A contractor has been identified. That contractor actually went through the same rigorous process of providing a resume, providing a list of works accomplished, and going through the entire process of selection, and then those contracts are awarded. And so we have multiple contracts being awarded. And so we have the local organizing committee who on a Wednesday and a Sunday, they come together and they set their targets and they ensure from monitoring and evaluation that those targets are being met. And so far, we've had no issues. Everything is happening very much above board, and we continue to push towards hosting this cricket event in June.
Who are the contractors?
That's what I just said. We have multiple. I do not have the list before me, but we have multiple contractors. We have contracts for instance, we have optimum cooling for the air conditioning. For instance, you would have a flow or another individual for the internet upgrades. For instance, for the media center, you would have one contractor identified to ensure that the media center is up to the standard requested by the IOC. And all of those subcontracts, so to speak, would be tendered for.
But you have an overall executing company?
Yes, we do.
Who's the overall company?
I do not have that information right now. I do know the individual. I don't remember his company's name, but I don't think it's necessary for me to, at this moment, put just the individual names out. I would prefer to give the company, but I don't have the company's name right now.
But it's a registered company?
Absolutely.
And the individual is the director, owner, CEO. It's a registered company. You can't give the name.
No, I don't want to give the name right now.
So the name of the individual and the company are two separate things?
Yes.
That's difficult to understand.
I don't think so. If I have a company, St. Lucia Sports Online, I'm Kenson Casimir, and there's St. Lucia Sports Online as my company.
But you identify with the company. Decisions being made would be made by you.
Not necessarily.
But in keeping with you.
Not necessarily. You could have a company and not necessarily you be the one making all the decisions. Let me just give you an example. In media, I was very good at writing sports, right? But the actual design of my page, the actual picture that would come out, that'd be done by somebody else. And I'd give that person autonomy to really decide on how this thing is being done. So,
but executive decisions would be made by you. But I do understand.
Executive decisions are made by a team.
I understand your
team.
response, Minister. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any questions on youth development from
I
from
think the other journalists have covered. I do have one other question pertaining to the constituency. The heliport, last time you said you had not really followed.
That's not what I said.
Or you were not at the meeting. Have you been briefed on what's taking place?
No.
Pertaining to that?
No.
Why is that?
Okay, Lisa, can we have another service?
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. That's my final question to the Minister.
No, I've not been briefed.
And why is that?
Well, apparently the person, I can actually answer that question. The person who is supposed to be responsible for engaging and briefing the parliamentary rep has not seen it fit to do so.
But we all know your constituency is very close and dear to you.
Oh, very dear to me.
Have you not made the effort to contact the relevant individual authorities to understand exactly what's happening?
Yes, I have. But let's put it this way. As a parliamentary rep, I always want to be informed, and I think it's respectable to inform me of meetings or developments that are ongoing or proposed for my community before we have any engagement with the wider community. That was not done.
And you've communicated your displeasure
I have.
to the relevant authorities
I have.
and individuals?
I have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Minister.
Have you gotten any complaints from your constituents about
The prospect? Absolutely.
what are the complaints? What are the concerns?
They are afraid of the noise and the discomfort of having helicopters fly right next to their house at odd times during the day.
You said the relevant authority had not informed you. Is that the Department of Aviation, the civil aviation?
They would be part of it.
Okay. And DCA?
I've had some conversations with DCA.
That's it.
Yeah? Any more questions, people?
Okay. I just want to make a short statement on the unfounded and baseless and misinformed statements of the leader of the opposition as it pertains to my visit to Brussels and St. Lucia's CIP program. The leader of the opposition has quite recently trying to denigrate, trying to cause the St. Lucian people undue harm by spreading malicious and false propaganda about St. Lucia's, about its financial management, and about its investment profile. Recently, he wrote the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank with complete falsity. The National Lottery Association actually owns the Darren Sammy ground. It owns it and all the surrounding lands around the Darren Sammy Stadium. The National Lottery has just completed payment of the Darren Sammy grounds. It's a complete government asset. when the leader of the opposition says that National Lodge Association has no assets, it's absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. There's no truth in that. The National Lottery Association, it receives its fees from the games that are played in St. Lucia. That's where the fees come from. In July 2021, just before the elections, that leader of the opposition was in the cabinet, and he signed a document giving concessions to the provider so that fees could be paid to the NLA. That was his work. So these statements are completely false, absolutely false. The leader of the opposition believes that the old saying, he can burn the house to kill a rat. The fact that he's not in power, he's not in government, that the people of St. Lucia have rejected him, have rejected his party by 15 seats to 2. He begins and spreads these falsities and that rumor mongering, which has no basis in fact. Speculation, misinformation, and innuendo. No basis in fact. Last week, I represented the people of St. Lucia in Brussels at several important bilateral meetings with the European Union. I met with Mr. Johannes Loster, who is the Deputy Director General for Migration and Home Affairs in the European Commission, and Mr. Dimitrios Gitokas, who is Head of Visa Policy, regarding their proposed changes to visa-free travel for the Schengen zone, and how these potential changes would impact countries with investor citizens programs like St. Lucia. Incidentally, the visa-free access was negotiated by the St. Lucia Labour Party government. I want to repeat it. The visa-free access for the Schengen zone was negotiated by the Labour Party government, and I was the government at this time. I also met with members of the European Parliament from the Netherlands, and I was not summoned to Europe. Europe has no problems with us. I was not summoned to Europe. Saying that I was summoned to Europe is ridiculous. I was never summoned to Europe. I traveled to Europe to meet with the EU lawmakers, and that was planned over a month ago. I wanted to speak to the EU face to face and explain to them the rigorous due diligence undertaken by our CIP investment program. And I also wanted to speak to the EU before my government signs St. Lucia to any memorandum of agreement on citizenship by investment with our Caribbean neighbors. Let me emphasize that St. Lucia was part of the discussions all the time. There is no agreement in the European Union. This is, again, a falsity on the leader of the opposition. What is, there's a memorandum of agreement between the countries involved in the CIP program, not an agreement with the EU or if anybody else. The only agreement that we have is with the American government. Is not, and what the American government gave us is 6 points that we should follow, and St. Lucia is following all these points. So the matter of an agreement with the EU government is a falsity. This is a memorandum of agreement among the countries in the region who have CIP programs, not with the European government. This is not true. And I want to tell you that I participated in all discussions. St. Lucia was an active participant in the discussions among, there is no conflict between St. Lucia and the OHCS governments. St. Lucia participated in all these discussions. In fact, St. Lucia is already following all what's in that MOA. All what St. Lucia said is that we need to complete the contractual agreements that we have with investors before we sign on to any price changes. Incidentally, these price changes were done by the leader of the opposition when he was Minister of Finance. They were done by him. He was the one who initiated these price changes, the leader of the opposition. He's the one who removed the fact that anyone who wanted to get involved in our citizenship had to have a net worth of $3 million US. He's the one who removed it. He's the one who removed the benchmark that we could only have 500 CIP citizens every year. He was the one who removed it. The leader of the opposition. He was the one who removed it in December. He was the one who removed it, not us. He's the one who allowed his friends to open an escrow account overseas. He was the one, not us, the leader of the opposition. These meetings were extremely productive, and I got valuable insights into the challenges of both illegal and legal migration, which is confronting the European Union in the lead-up to the parliamentary elections in June this year. The fact is, the proposal from the EU Commission must be passed by the European Parliament. And that has not happened. Because the European Parliament, there are elections in the European Parliament in June this year. The proposal states that the CIP is one of the reasons, just one of the reasons, adding to the other four, that we can lose the visa access. CIP has been added to one of the reasons. One of the reasons, adding to the four that already exist. And that has not been voted upon by the European Parliament because the elections are going to be held in June. That was a proposal from the European Commission, which has gone to the Parliament, and the Parliament will vote for it, for or against it, after elections in June. So the idea that there is a loss of visa immediately is very improbable. The EU or the British government have never called into question our due diligence processes. The British government were in St. Lucia. There are discussions with the CIP unit. There is discussions with the Bank of St. Lucia. And I'm going to get back to the Bank of St. Lucia in a while to show you the rigorous nature of our due diligence processes. Our CIP program continues to be one of the most robust, secure, and transparent in the world. Our due diligence processes incorporates a multi-layered methodology that includes background checks by official law enforcement and the regional enforcement organizations like the Joint Regional Communication Center, JRCC, and IMPACTS. And I'm going to prove to you in a while. Under my government, St. Lucia was added to Canada's partial visa waiver scheme under our government. Me as Prime Minister, not the leader of the opposition. We signed up with 4 other Eastern Caribbean states to 6 citizenship by investment principles proposed by the United States of America in 2023. We were the first country in the region to stop accepting citizen applications from Russians We were the first after the start of the Ukraine war. We were the first. In fact, we rejected applications that had already come to St. Lucia. We rejected it. We were the first country, and the records will show that we were the first country to stop accepting Russian applications. We were the first country. The opposition leader is living in his own fantasy. He is living in his own fantasy of misinformation and his own fantasy of trying to destabilize the economy of St. Lucia for his own private political purposes. Regarding the matter of underpricing, there's official memoranda from the Citizenship by Investment Program dated April 15, 2024. And it reads, unlawful reduction of real estate investment sum. And I'll read that memo for you. From the inception of St. Lucia's CIP program on 1st January 2016 until 31st December 2022, the qualifying investment sum into an approved real estate project was a minimum of $300,000, along with the applicable administrative fee. Okay? These are things that is very important to you. And that was changed by the leader of the opposition. His government reduced it. His government reduced it. In every instance, citizenship is only granted pursuant to the applicant making the full legislated minimum investment into the developer's approved escrow accounts after meeting the necessary due diligence review. In every instance, that sum must be paid by each successful applicant into the approved escrow accounts. St. Lucia cannot determine or regulate fees paid to the authorized agents. St. Lucia can't. It's an agreement between two parties that St. Lucia has. But what St. Lucia ensures that happens is that the due diligence is rigorous and the due diligence is complete. I want to tell you the due diligence processes and the due diligence, the steps that are taken for due diligence in St. Lucia. 1, any application is sent to foreign due diligence companies that operate from out of the country. 1. 2, it is sent to the special branch. And 3, it is sent to the JR, it is sent to impacts. And up to March 22nd, we have correspondence from impacts recognizing the fact that St. Lucia's CIP program goes to them for vetting. And here's what it reads. It reads, the Office of the Executive Director of CARICOM Impacts, in an effort to streamline and ensure all relevant data for CIP applicants are captured, forwards for necessary attention and immediate implementation the amended CIP security vetting sheet, along with accompanying SOP, Standard Operation Procedures, SOP, for same. Kindly make note of requests for passport issue and expiration dates, occupation, country of residence fields that have now been included. An extra layer of due diligence in March 22nd, 2024. That's from the JRC. Every applicant, every CIP applicant goes through a vetting process that, in that vetting process, local from within the the CIP unit, special branch, JRCC, and a foreign due diligence firm. St. Lucia is the only country that says that applicants must have a face-to-face interview by virtual means. The only country. These are part of the arrangements that we agreed to by the United States. But what is most important and dangerous about the leader of the opposition is that any money that comes into the CIP account has to go through a vetting process from the bank. All monies that come into the CIP account must go through a vetting process from the bank. So there's an extra layer of vetting from the bank that is called Know Your Customer, and it says the source is called the source of funds that all of you and me have to present if we are depositing money in the bank from another source. So that's another layer. So St. Lucia doesn't accept CIP money outside of the country. It comes in and has to be vetted by the bank. So the leader of the opposition is a master of misinformation. When he goes internationally and says to the world that St. Lucia's due diligence process is questionable. The money has to come through the bank, and there is a process of vetting that takes place there in the Know Your Customer situation. Right? Every applicant immediately goes through these 3 levels of due diligence. And St. Lucia does not accept any applicant who has been rejected by another country. There is no incident in St. Lucia of any issues regarding our CIP program. There's not been one incident because of the due diligence that happens in St. Lucia with our CIP program. So that criticism is unsubstantiated. It is based on lies. It's based on misinformation and the words of a desperate man who is seeking political power. What the leader of the opposition doesn't want to happen, he does not want St. Lucia to enjoy the benefits of the CIP program like our neighbors. If you go to Dominica now, you'll find that in Dominica, literally thousands of people have benefited from the CIP program in terms of housing, free housing. The only attempt by the leader of the opposition failed when St. Lucia taxpayers had to pay a firm over $12 million for his failed attempt to cross investment by a company called Range. And if you go to Dominica today, that company has opened Dominica's first 6-star hotel property because of the failed attempt by the leader of the opposition when he's leader of government to get this investment going. What he doesn't want to happen, he understands the benefits that the CIP program can give to the people of the country through housing, through roads, through community development. So he's trying his best to muddy the water, to cause the confidence in St. Lucia to be diminished so that investors can be afraid and not invest in this country. The matter of due diligence is completely not, and the information is available. The due diligence is not in question at all. The leader of the opposition is just basically envious of the progress that St. Lucia is making. And you will hear in our budget statement where this country is heading. You will hear the investments that happen in this country. You will hear the results of prudent financial management has happened in this country. You will hear where this country is going and why the leader of the opposition is trying his best to stop these efforts by misinformation. Because he cannot, he can't substantiate any of these accusations with any fact. I heard the leader of the opposition speaking to a foreign journalist, and making the point that the reason why St. Lucia's CIP program takes so long is because we do it directly. The money must come from the bank. The money for the CIP program must come through the bank, and the bank has their own due diligence processes. So I want to assure Solutions that St. Lucia's integrity, that the due diligence required to make our CIP program as robust and as rigorous as possible is well in place. I thank you. Questions?
I want to go back to what you said about the CIP being one of 4 reasons. Can you just repeat that statement
Yes.
again? And yeah.
The European Commission has made a suggestion to the European Parliament. There are 2 bodies. You see, what in that misinformation world, what the leader of opposition is doing, he's mixing the 2 and making them look like one. You understand? Which is very deliberate. There are 2 bodies. There is the European Commission and there is the European Parliament. 2 bodies. The Parliament is elected. There are elections in the Parliament in June. There's going to be elections, like we're going to have in St. Lucia in 2026. Okay? Where the people vote. But there's a commission which is like the civil service. And the commission makes recommendations to the Parliament, and the Parliament votes for these recommendations. So what has happened is the Commission has made a recommendation that one of the reasons that visa-free access can be withdrawn is countries who have CIP programs. That's all that has happened.
What are the other 3 reasons?
The other, I think one of them is mass migration. Somebody is because in Europe, as you know for yourselves as journalists, there's a migration problem. You're aware of that. A serious migration problem, illegal migration problem into Europe. And so I think the CIP program has been added to it. One of the reasons why. But the Parliament has to vote for it. And that's the point. The Parliament must vote for it. The Parliament. So we have no idea what the Parliament will vote for. And when that happens, if the Parliament votes for it, there are other processes which we'll go to at some other point.
In your discussions, were any suggestions, recommendations made by the EU Commission?
No, that was not a meeting for recommendations. It was a meeting for information. The EU didn't call us, We went to the EU. Mm-hmm. They didn't call us. Listen to me. Here's what we have on the table. And they said to us, here's what we have on the table. What we have on the table is that the European Commission has made a recommendation. Not St. Lucia's CIP program, Because St. Lucia's CIP program is not St. Lucia's CIP program. And this is the misinformation of the leader of the opposition. It's CIP programs generally. Not St. Lucia's CIP program. And let me say something further. St. Lucia has been the country that has benefited the least from the CIP because we started the latest. And let me tell you historically how we got into the CIP program. We got into the CIP program through a commission that included members of the opposition. So they knew very well what was happening there. It wasn't secret. In fact, one of the members of the commission is a high-ranking official of the United Workers' Party. High-ranking official. He was involved in the commission that put the CIP program together. So the CIP program wasn't done in any clandestine manner. They were involved in the entire thing. And we came in late, and that's why we've benefited the least.
So you were just on a fact-finding mission?
We are just, an information sharing mission.
Okay.
Sorry, Prime Minister, what was the feedback from you?
Oh, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you for ages.
Thank you so much. I'm doing okay. Thank you so much.
Yes?
So since you shared information with the EU, what was their feedback? Because you said you wanted to let them know about St. Lucia's, the vigorousness of our CIP program, how sturdy it is, and that we're following all the rules. What was their information to you?
The
their
information
feedback?
to me, as I said earlier, the commission sends proposals to the parliament.
What
the
was
parliament,
what was the thinking on what you said
cannot
to
say, I cannot tell you what the parliament is thinking. The parliament will vote. What happened? And I'm sorry you came so late. Let's go for that again. Let's go for it again. Because I wanted to be clear. Because I want you to fact check me.
Thank you.
I've always said to journalists, fact check me and the leader of the opposition, but you all seem to fact check him, and that concerns me, because you allow the leader of the opposition to ramble. You think that's completely wrong, and you never stop him. He rambles with things and which can be proven to be wrong, but you do not fact check him. Fact check me. Anything I've said this morning, I want you to fact check me. And if I've said what's not true, come back and tell me, Prime Minister, you lied. Because let's say I went to church and I saw the Bible use the word, in the Bible there's the word lie. That's a biblical word. I went to church yesterday and I saw it in, I think it was the epistle of the third Sunday after Easter. And in that there was lying. So the word lying, because I understand there are some people who say you insult the leader if you're telling me lies. That's a biblical word. So let's move on. There was a proposal from the European Commission. The European Commission is the civil service of the European Parliament. In that proposal, the proposal said, because of the problem of illegal migration in the EU, let us add countries to CIP programs as one of the reasons that you can remove their visa-free status. That proposal has to go to the Parliament, and it's going to be voted for in the Parliament. It's the Parliament that takes these decisions. The Commission makes a recommendation, and the Parliament takes the decisions. And there are elections in June, and in June, the Parliament will take a decision on this aspect.
So how do you know what you said was effective?
The Parliament will tell me when they vote.
When they vote. So we just have to wait.
Yes, we always have to wait. Because, you see, I want you to put it, I want you to understand it also.
But you were lobbying the Parliament.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It's a CIP, it's not St. Lucia CIP. I want you to listen to that and understand and check
you,
it
Prime
out.
Minister. I
Even
understood that.
within European countries, there have been some level of discussion about CIP programs.
Were you the only Prime Minister of a CIP country on that particular?
Yes, I was the only Prime Minister together with the CIP unit, yes.
Why?
Because the other countries have advantages that I don't have. The other countries have thousands of CIP applicants. Thousands. Understand that. The other countries have benefited from the CIP program. In a way, the only attempt was a failed attempt by the leader of the opposition, when he had to pay back some of your taxpayers' money back to a developer, $12 million. The only program that is happening now is a hotel project in Vieux Fort. It's what's happening now as we speak. Right? So,
Which hotel project is it?
the hotel project at Canels and Vieux Fort. I had to go to Europe to find out, from the horse's mouth, what is the situation as it relates to migration and the CIP program. That's what I went to do. Nobody summoned me. I went to find out for myself. And I want to say to you that I have no conflict with OECD countries. In that MOA, St. Lucia was deeply involved.
Have we signed?
We may say, no, we haven't, for the same reason why, again, sorry that you're late. We did not sign because we said we have contractual arrangements with investors that we want to clear first.
What are those contractual arrangements, Prime
There
Minister?
be people who have purchased or made applications to buy our CIP program. Many people. And that's what frightens the leader of the opposition, the confidence in St. Lucia. People who want to invest in St. Lucia. And he doesn't want it to happen. Because if it happens, what the leader of the opposition doesn't understand is when the country progresses, everybody moves. UWPs, Labour Party, independent, everybody moves. But he is so stuck in old-fashioned vindictive politics that he believes that when he stops investment happening in the country, the Labour Party will lose the election and he get into government.
So we're out of step with the other.
We're not out of step.
CIP
No, we're
countries.
not. What you said is give us some time before we sign.
Did you indicate to them how much time we need?
We're speaking about it, and we are in discussions on that. We have no conflict with our neighbors. No conflict.
So there were price changes. You mentioned earlier in your opening that price changes under the CIP occurred solely under the former administration.
Official price changes,
Official changes. Yes. So there were changes in January of 2023. These are not official?
Official price changes. And again, you see, this thing has been so muddied by the opposition that even you a little bit confused. I understand that. Because if I didn't know better, I might have got confused too.
I'm not confused, sir. We had changes that came into effect January 1st of 2023. And we had changes to the investment for the real estate.
Yes.
So it's at 200,000 instead of the 300,000. Can you explain to us why those changes were necessary?
Because we needed to be attractive from what our neighbors are doing.
So it was for competitiveness.
Yes.
So the former changes were because of what?
Well, we never questioned that. What we questioned is the escrow accounts that we held outside the country. We never questioned the change. We never questioned that.
So under the real estate component, the escrow account
we do not
no
support
longer,
escrow accounts out of the country.
It's no longer
And this is why it takes some time, because many has to come for due diligence in our local banks. That's the difference.
Okay, very well. Just wanted to emphasize that. Can you just explain to us the infrastructure component to the CIP?
The infrastructure component is just like the only difference in that and the thing is that the leader of the opposition failed in one, and taxpayers had to pay money. Taxpayers had to pay money for his failed attempts at getting a hotel building solution. It's very simple. Very simple. And you know, it's unfortunate that in his attempt to stymie the growth of St. Lucia, what he's putting is in doubt in the minds of investors. This is what leader of the opposition is doing. It's very simple. An investor, first of all, it doesn't cause any debt on the people of the country. No direct awards that were given by leader of the opposition, which I inherited, $246 million worth of direct awards, given without tendering to one or two firms at an interest rate of 5.5%. That's what I inherited. That cost me to have to pay $40 million to build roads in this country. And if you look at the roads, you might ask yourself, some questions. $246 million I inherited. This is very simple. An investor decides that he's going to build roads, some roads which are vetted and verified by the Ministry of Infrastructure. In exchange, the investor is allowed to sell shares or to sell shares in a company that will build the roads in exchange for the money to build the roads. Costs no debt to the country, and these come in the form of CIP citizenships, which is what has caused all houses in Dominica to be built, and there's a kids' economy to be able to give 13 months salary to civil servants.
So the investor will be selling the passports?
It's not selling the passport. The investor is allowed passport citizenships, buying citizenships as an investment into the company.
Okay, understood.
That's what, and this is not new, you know. It's passing strange that this is being made an issue now. That's how Dominica was built. I'm sure you've been to Dominica. I'm sure you've seen the houses. So this is, as I tell you, the reason why this is happening now, because the leader wants to stop. He wants to erode confidence in St. Lucia. Because he knows that if the CIP program begins to touch the people in a tangible way, that his chances of winning the election which are very bleak now, will get bleaker. And that's his problem. As I said before, it's burning a house to kill a rat.
Mr. Prime Minister, I wanted to find out a little bit more about. You mentioned that there was a company called Range that wanted to work with St. Lucia and is now working with.
No, it's now built a hotel in Dominica.
Right.
Not working, built it. It's called it's a 6-star hotel. It's built in Dominica. Built, it's there. I stayed there once.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get a little bit more details on what is it that we lost.
$10 million. $10 to $12 million.
A $20 to $12 million investment.
Yes. No, that was money he had to pay back to the investors for breaking the agreement.
Right, but we also lost our
And we lost the investment, yes.
and the investment in the hotel.
In the hotel.
And all the jobs that came with it.
Everything. The investment in the hotel.
And this is something that. When did this happen? When did
the investor and you see again that's provable. I can show you the document, the instruction from the Minister of Finance to pay the investor, and if you want, I can show it to you. You see, the problem with the leader is he never has any paper. You know, he never has any facts. All comes from his head. He never has any facts. He's never shown one document that puts St. Lucia's due diligence in question. Not one, just from his head, ramblings.
How big an investment was that?
It was. I just want to get the name of the hotel. Could you ask the name of the hotel that's built by Mohammed in Dominica? Yeah, it's a major 6-star hotel.
So it's something like $100 million investment.
Possibly, it's a major hotel. Questions?
Yes.
You see, I want you to ask me the hard questions because you don't ask the leader of the hard questions. Okay. You don't. You allow him to say things that you know is not true. His record will tell you it's not true. So I want you to ask me hard questions because I want you to fact check me.
Mr. Prime Minister, in setting the record straight, would it be prudent to say that the CIP unit could give an annual report? St.
Lucia gives an annual report every year in the Parliament that shows how the money is used, an audited report in the Parliament. And that's one of the reasons, that was one of the things that were added on to the agreement with the Americans. St. Lucia has already been doing it. St. Lucia's CIP program doesn't happen in a room, you know. It's a massive organization with a board. You understand? It's not a one-man show. It's a board. Independent is a board. The leader of the opposition makes a story about the National Economic Fund and Cabinet changed the rules. Again, you know, much ado about nothing. Let me tell you what happened to the National Economic Fund. The National Economic Fund, certain investments go into the National Economic Fund. The National Economic Fund has an independent board. Previously, it said the National Economic Fund could be used for X, Y, Z. All what this government added to it is that the cabinet can ask the National Economic Fund to make an investment. That's all. So when he makes the cabinet of the country that gives directions on a $1.5 billion budget, the cabinet of the country. But the cabinet of the country can't give directions to use for the National Economic Fund. That's what he makes a fuss of. That's what he makes a fuss of. And pettiness. Pettiness. That's what he makes a fuss of. The first time we changed it. That's what we changed. And we didn't change it secretly. When the parliament, we changed it. It wasn't a secret. Because if the cabinet can control the budget, why can't the cabinet control the National Economic Fund? What's wrong with that? I make no apologies about that. The cabinet, you see, what the leader of the doesn't understand is the government was elected by the people. The same way he complains about speaking in parliament. The people are the ones who decided that two of them would be in the parliament. Two of them. The people decided that, you know, not us. So if the people decided, how can you dictate the rules of the parliament if the people decided we told you can be there? The leader of the opposition behaves like a spoiled child. If he doesn't have his way, he takes his thing and he runs away. The people, the one decided, how are you? Because we didn't put ourselves in parliament, you know. I didn't make myself prime minister. I was made prime minister by the majority of people in the parliament after winning 6 elections. 6. I became prime minister. So, and then when I was leader of the opposition, I accepted my role as leader of the opposition. Again, you must go back and do the fact-checking. Do the fact-checking. But the leader of the opposition doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that the people made him leader of the opposition. Not me.
So the same way, so like you have the Gazette, you have documentation. So this CIP is something that is documented, is gazetted.
What?
The CIP report.
It's
a document.
I can give you a copy. You want a copy? I give you a copy.
Just on that, as you brought up the National Economic Fund, you correctly spoke about the changes made to
One change.
Okay, the one change made to it. And speaking about fact checking, when those changes were made by the UWP back in 2016, I believe it was.
No, that's two different things. No, two different.
Yes, I know. I was just drawing the fact that you were able to make changes to the NEF and you asked for it to be fact checked. So I just want to go back a bit to 2016. When those changes were made, you were very emphatic, the Labour Party was very emphatic, that it would reverse those changes made by the UWP. Why did you never?
I don't recall that, but if you say that, I don't recall that. I never recall we making any point of reversing.
It was even reported by the international media. There was a press release. There were statements made by yourself and members of the St. Lucia
I think
Labour
you're
Party.
wrong. I think you're wrong about myself. But anyway,
but you even staged a walkout.
That's not the point.
You even staged a walkout
On what?
in Parliament.
On what?
On the CIP.
On what?
When those changes
No. Again,
so why did you
the
not
walkout? The
reverse?
walkout we ever did was on the T.O.R. King. That's what he walked out on.
Okay,
Yes.
that's part and
T.O.R.
encompassing
King,
the CIP.
T.O.R. King, where he was given 1,000 acres of land at $1 per acre. That's what he walked out on. 1,000 acres of land. And where he proclaimed that he would have built 200 islands. And he also proclaimed that had to have investments of billions of dollars. That's
So
what
you've
he
only had one walkout of the Parliament?
No. We had
under
several
your-
walkouts. I'm talking about the one I recall is the one that on that program.
But you were not happy then that the changes were made to the CIP?
Yes.
And to the cost, because you mentioned it in your opening.
Yeah.
The $3 million and so forth. Why did you not seek to reverse those changes?
Because of competition. Because all the other islands were not doing it.
So we were in line then with those
Yes,
changes?
yes.
So the changes brought us in line with the other islands?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I did.
I just have one other question on the canals, I think it is.
Canals,
right?
yeah.
You visited the site, you satisfied if the works?
A very long
taken
time
there?
ago. A very long time ago.
Okay, but in your estimates, in your estimate statements, you did make mention that the CIP will be earning less money for the fiscal year, and you did say...
I'm glad you brought it up. Again,
because
misinformation. Misinformation, let's go. Answer me.
I believe there was something of 120
Ask me
million
the question,
you said
I'll
it
answer you.
would
Ask me
be
the-
the
I'll answer
previous
you.
year, and we are likely to get 97 million, and you said that you would elaborate on why the difference in the revenue.
I like you.
Are you in a position
You're
now to
asking good
tell us
questions.
so?
I'm always in a position to do it, but it's just that the estimates were figures and the policy is the policy. But I'll do it now. You see, I'll tell you something. Any question you can ask me, I'll answer you. Any question you ask me, any.
Thank
and
you
and
for
I give you the benefit. I'll ask you, and I want you to fact check what I say. Anything you ask me. And if I made a mistake, you see, I'll answer you. I'm not running away. When the Prime Minister says that he doesn't know something, he is ridiculed. I must be an expert in gangs. I'm an expert in engineering. I'm not. Yesterday, I'll answer your question. Yesterday, I was watching UE TV about gangs. The multifaceted and the complex nature of gang warfare and gun warfare in the region that hasn't begun to be studied from the 1990s. People of much higher intellect than me have been studying it. They haven't found a solution. They haven't found a solution. But there are people here. There are people in St. Lucia, in the opposition, who their previous occupation was not. I won't say that. Because if I say that, you will take the whole interview and put it on that. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say what the guy's previous occupation was. I'm not going to say that. Have whole series on gang warfare and I should solve it. Whole series. Whole. I have never proclaimed myself to be a psychologist, be an expert on social behavior, or be a sociologist. I went to school too long ago to see what I am. What I know is I'm a St. Lucian, the 9th Prime Minister of St. Lucia, whose basic philosophical principles is to put the people of St. Lucia first and to improve the lives of the people of St. Lucia. So I don't profess to be, I'm not an expert on gangs. You never hear me say that. But the opposition, and I've heard the cause of my resignation, but the opposition believes I must solve gangs warfare. I must solve everything. But I'm not getting caught in that trap. I remain focused. I'm answering what you said now. I didn't forget what you said. I wasn't trying to divert. I wasn't trying to divert. I just talking to you. Because, I want to talk to you young journalists. And I'd like you to talk to the leader if he allows you. Because the last thing he used to do to journalists, he said, I'm ashamed of you. And this and that. That's what he did to journalists. And you're supposed to be in jail. I never did that. And I will never do it. I'll take all the questions from you. You see, the problem with the leader of the opposition is his history. That's the problem. My history is clear. But he wants to divert his history like he sits in the back of a pickup. Doesn't even know how to sit in the back of it. Doesn't even know how to sit in the back of a pickup. Doesn't even know how to do it. When I went to college, I sat in the back of pickups. I know how to sit in the back of pickup. so you understand? And that's his problem. He's trying his best to be what he's not. That's his biggest problem. You understand? I mean, you think if I got the back of the pickup, I'll sit flat? That's a problem. That's a problem with him. He's trying his best. He's trying too much. He's trying too much to be what he's not. That's the basic problem. Anyhow, let's get back to you. What's the name of the hotel?
It's Reed's Resort and Spa.
That's it.
Kempinski.
That's it.
Known as Intercontinental.
That's a hotel. That's a hotel. That was built by an investor called Mohammed, who is the range project in St. Lucia. That's a hotel. Yes, Lisa, tell me. Come again.
Yes, so the question was,
The
question had to do with the discrepancy between the figures.
Okay, fine. All right, good.
For this, yes,
Okay,
the CIP
good.
revenue.
Very good question. This year, the CIP, the leader of Bishop is right, has 3 options. Direct investment, infrastructure, and a business investment. We had projected that $90 million will have come directly to the National Economic Fund. And National Economic Fund would have done what they had to do with it, either pay debt or put it in the contingent fund. What happened is that the bond option, which says to an investor after COVID, and that's introduced by him, and we didn't change it, that you can buy a bond and you get paid after 5 years. That bond option attracted $34 million. So that was used to finance the budget. $45 million was direct budgetary support, which we used to pay debts and to run the country. $45 million. Add it. 45 and the remainder was sent into the National Economic Development Fund, which was used for purposes which I will outline, no secret, in the policy statement. And there was $17 million, which was direct investment in the social and economic life of the country, which I'm going to outline. Total $120 million. That's how it was used.
But you stated in the House that the real estate option factored into the revenue collection.
It did better.
So it did better.
Better than we anticipated. You want me to go for that again?
No, it's okay. I will, as you say, fact check.
Please. And listen, I have never proclaimed to be infallible, you know. I'm not proclaimed infallible. I mean, you all criticize me when I say I'm in an error. Because what we've used to in St. Lucia is people playing that they're infallible and they can make a mistake and they're superhuman and they have the most brains in the country. I'm not so. I'm a simple guy who is trying to contribute to the country. When I make a mistake, I raise my hand. I make a mistake. Easy. I'm not afraid that I made a mistake. If I wouldn't go to lie and compound it for another lie. Once I err, I take my error. You understand? Like, give an example. The leader of the opposition mimicked me because they say I'm a stutterer. The tape shows him he did that, but he said he didn't do it. The tape. There's a tape that says the leader of the opposition was going in. When they asked the prime minister, he said, He said he didn't do it. Now, why you all don't fact check him and tell him, listen, but leader of the opposition, you said it, why aren't you? But you all don't do that. I don't tell you what to do, you know. But I'm saying to you, I want you to treat me. I want you to fact check me. I want you to tell me I said something that was wrong. And if I made an error, I'm going to say I made an error. Now listen, there's a difference between disagreeing with a policy. There are policy disagreements. If you tell me the leader of the opposition says that we should not, anything you want, I'll agree. That's a policy disagreement. And that's what opposition is there for, to have policy disagreements with the government. But the idea that you can just say whatever you want, just to prove a point, that's what I do agree with. Yes.
Given the concerns that have been expressed over the years about CBI programs, CIP programs, do you see this hours being something sustainable? Is it something that...
That's a very good question. Very good question. And this is why we are trying to maximize the potential now. That's a very good question. Because there are issues. And you say, what the point I want to make to you is not issues with St. Lucia. Because what the CIP program does, especially with the visa-free access, it gives you 90 days you can live in somebody else's country. That's what it does. Basically, that's all it does, right? But you must understand that Americans are also buying second passports. And if you read the latest on Bloomberg, you'll see how that business is multiplying. There's also migration, where some people come to work in the country because of the peace and the quiet, and they can work on the beach, and which is part of a CIP program. CIP program doesn't only mean the physical sale of citizenships. It has a lot of variations, right? So the question is whether St. Lucia, the time is right for St. Lucia now to look to diversify its program, and the minister is in Dubai now dealing with that. And there are many people who have no citizenship. People who have been displaced because of wars and all sorts of disasters. They have nothing. The question is, what do you do with these people? And the Europeans are saying that is causing illegal migration. I want to make a point, but these people do not apply. It's my humble opinion. These people don't apply for CIP passports because they have no documentation. They have no documentation. They what you call stateless. There are many stateless people in the world. And that's a problem of migration. But you're very correct that we have to relook at it, because whether it's sustainable is a question. You're very correct. And that's a discussion we can have, but you're correct.
Okay, some comments were made by Sir Calix George on in the Can I Help You program.
Calix George is a grown man. Hold on, let me get it. Calix George is Sir Calix George is a grown, very intelligent, grown gentleman whom I must admit I have a lot of respect for. I was not there when he made this comment. I was not in the country. I didn't hear the comment. I heard some people are saying because he's my friend he made that comment. I mean, but that's what you get. What happens to you when you're prime minister? I have no problem with that. I don't know what he said. I didn't hear what he said. I'm not going to comment on what he said. I don't know. I don't know. What I know about Calix George, he's the one who caused us to be paying now what we are paying now for telephone rates. These are the good things I know about him. What I know about him, he was a minister, he was involved in the agricultural diversification of St. Lucia. That's what I know about him. But when he makes a comment, which I'll tell you something. All in a sudden, we've got very conscious of the word black. All in a sudden, suddenly, black, oh, you boy, you are racist. All in a sudden, we've got very conscious about that. Suddenly. That was never something to... When I grew up with a thing called black power. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. But all in a sudden now, we've just got very, boy, this is, you said, you are a racist. But I don't see what's happening now. These are black Americans, Afro-American. This is in the lexicon of the world. In St. Lucia, it's an offense if you use the word black. It's an offense if you say many things. It's offensive. You know what I call that? Hypocrisy. But answer your question.
But the comments you made, you didn't hear it, you said.
I wasn't there, I was in Brussels.
Will you ever listen
and I wasn't summoned to Brussels.
Will you ever listen to the comments?
I did not.
Will you listen to them?
There's no reason why. Calix is a grown man. A very grown, intelligent man.
Yes, and the comments coming from a distingued gentleman.
That's his
like
opinion.
like you mentioned.
That's his opinion.
So,
yes. No, okay. I just I'm not. You're not going to drive me into defending Calix. Calix can defend himself. So I'm not going there. What I'm saying to you, why are we so sensitive when these historical facts are said? Why are we so sensitive? These are historical facts.
What historical facts?
Historical facts is there was slavery. Historical fact is we came from Africa on a boat. Historical fact is that we are now asking for reparation. Historical fact. Not Philip J.P. said so. Historical fact. So why do we get so excited or so nervous when someone brings that history to current times as what's happening? Why do we get so afraid?
But so you said
up to today, the Jews are still talking about the Holocaust. Up to today, this morning. The Jews are still talking about it. But we do not want to deal with these issues. In Rwanda, there was a complete massacre. The people of Rwanda are still dealing with it up to today. But not in the region. In St. Lucia, inconvenient truth of fact, we are trying our best to hide it because we want to shield one man. It's not a philosophical, we don't have a philosophical problem, We want to shield one man for political reasons, so we hide behind all these things instead of getting to the facts. I'm not getting involved in that.
I know, but you...
If I say my father was a policeman, I'm not supposed to say that. Say my mother, I'm not supposed to say that. Say I come from Waterlocks Road, I'm not supposed to say that. Nonsense, I don't get involved in that. I'm going to remain focused. You see all these things are diversions. Take you off the track. I'm so excited about next Tuesday. That's what I want to talk about, next Tuesday.
Yes,
I'm so excited about the One University program for the young people of St. Lucia. I'm so excited about the youth economy, where $2 million has been given to young people to expand their businesses. I'm excited about these things. I'm excited about the housing program. I'm not involved in petty things that are being blown out of proportion just to shield one man. I'm not getting involved in that.
Yeah, but you're speaking about historical facts and the things that happened and slavery and whatnot. You already said that you did not listen to what he said, so why are you talking about historical facts?
Because I have been a victim of that.
Of what?
I've been a victim of people accusing me if I go into parliament and I say, and I use, people accuse me of all these things that just, you see all that? That's not a philosophical problem, It's just a political problem. is a political solution, is a political defense, it's a political cover-up to hide from reality and to hide from fact.
Does the Senatorial Labour Party engage in race baiting?
Never. We never called anybody massa. Look at who called anybody massa. Check the records and you'll see who called people massa. Check it.
Just
check it. I always tell you to check it. Check the records. Check it. I'm not saying who. Check it. Next question.
Just
yes?
quickly, sir, briefly. In the context of the Global Parliamentary Forum, I know the leader of the opposition is supposed to be attending.
And I wish him luck. I hope he has a very good presentation.
What I'm saying is,
I'm very proud of him that St. Lucia is going there.
Yes, what I'm saying is, this is something of a high.
I'm very proud of him.
Standard.
I applaud him.
But just to clarify it, does it entail just opposition members, or is it parliamentarians generally that
Honestly, I've never
this thing?
heard about it before. And none of my members have been invited. But any St. Lucian who is going out to represent St. Lucia, I applaud it, I support it, and I encourage it. I'm a proud St. Lucian. St. Lucia is my birth, St. Lucia is where my daughter was born, St. Lucia is the place where I grew up, and St. Lucia is the place that I want to see improved. So any St. Lucian, any person who's representing St. Lucia, I support them. So I'm very proud that he's got this opportunity of a lifetime.
Prime Minister, there's been such public outrage over Minister Richard Frederick's program, Can I Help You? The minister in his last program made public the account of a vendor, I believe it's to the CCC, maybe I could be fact-checked here by my colleagues, I don't know. And what she's owing to the CCC.
I don't know the story.
You don't know the story?
I wasn't here.
Okay. So you've not been briefed yet?
No, I haven't.
Just like Sir George.
See, let me tell you what I've been done. I'm working on my budget. I'm working on my budget.
And we appreciate that, Prime Minister, but it has been causing some discomfort in the public. And when you took office, you did say that you were expecting your ministers to serve with integrity and make sure that they
I did see. I still want them to do that.
You still want them to.
I will never let any of them say
the minister,
that I'll commit crime in private. Never.
Okay. However, the minister has been using his show to attack, quote unquote, attack private citizens.
Yeah.
Does that not cause you some degree of concern?
I'll tell you something. Let me tell you something. If I'm convinced that any of my ministers is doing anything that is injurious to St. Lucia by word or deed, I will call them up. I did not hear what the minister said. I hear what you say. I'm going to find out what the minister, I'm going to see him in cabinet in a while. I'll ask him what he said. And if I believe that any of my ministers is doing, I'll say it again, injurious to the people of the country, I will pull them up. So I'm going to ask him what he said.
No, the tape is also there.
I'll say it there.
Okay, besides that, this is the
But you see, Lisa, let me ask you something. What I also want you to do, I want you to have the same standard of care for all of us. All of us. The same standard of care. You see, if there's that same standard of care for all of us, for all the programs, all the talk shows, or if there was that same standard of care, I would be very, very pleased. But what I'm afraid of is some people are allowed to say the most damaging things about other people, and they never that level of public outrage.
You might appreciate that we have much more access to some people than others. So that some people are much more accessible and much more able to be attacked and to have to defend themselves, to have to defend their statements, to have to be fact-checked. Some people are not that available.
I understand that. But what I want to say is that I want to make the point that I am ready. Listen, we can even sit face to face and have a sit down. Because, you see, I want you to...
That's on the record.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can have a sit down. We can have a sit down. I mean, you see, I had nothing hiding, you know.
Well, and you know that you know my record as well.
Yeah. You ask me to, I'll answer you to the best of my ability. But I can't, I can't. I won't say, but what, I'm not afraid to say I can't, Lisa. I'm not afraid to say I can't. I don't have the answer to all the stories. I don't answer the question. I'm not infallible. I'm a regular, simple person who's been given the opportunity to work for the country. That's all.
So you don't ever watch Can I Help You?
Honestly, I've not watched it for a long time. Honestly, but you must understand, you know, when people talk about when people talk about the can I help you host, they pretend as if it's my creation, you know. That's what they pretend to. And this hypocrisy is so strong. They pretend as if it's our creation. Not our creation. Not our creation at all. That's all. Look at
But it has become a very integral part.
Of course. No. Hold on. The last party he ran for was the United Workers' Party.
But he's a card-holding member now. Does it
No. As at today, he's not.
I thought he said so.
As at today, he's not.
So you are confirming he's not.
As at today, he's not. Quote me correctly. As at today, he's not. As of today, he's not. But what I'll tell you is that the only party he's joined is the United Workers' Party, not mine.
But he's sitting in your cabinet.
Of course, because of my policy of inclusiveness. The former Prime Minister is in the cabinet. You know, and I've invited Bradley Felix, if you want, you can follow once you can follow the principles of our party. You understand? Because we're inclusive. We want to bring everybody together. All men and women of goodwill. We have a big umbrella. Come in. But I just want you to check that he was not my creation. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good week.